Hey, everybody. Our first book, written in stone, the 1990s, is going to the printer this week. You can pre order it right now for 20% off simply by signing up for our Patreon, The Secret Stoners Club, which is entirely free, and you get bonus episodes and materials in there as well. And this book will cover the stories from season one, as well as timelines of important events, full color illustrations, and more. It's a great way to support the show and make sure that this thing keeps going. The link is in the show notes. Today, on the final interview of season 2, we're talking to young legend in the making, Jordan Cannon, who is fresh off of an incredible season of big wall free climbing. Most important for this conversation is his recent ascent of the free Salathé, including the infamous Pitch 19. Now, I've been mining Jordan for details the past month or so as I've been deep in the rabbit hole of this story. That is, if I haven't learned the details from his Instagram already, because if you aren't following him there, you should be. His posts are little pieces of history and insight. Between Jordan and Jim Thornburg's recent posts, there's been great Salathé content on there as well. And Jordan's emphasis on aiming for the best style possible without letting that get in the way of having an incredible experience is really refreshing. It's not about the rules. It's just for the love of this game. And in this episode, we get extra nerdy about some of the individual pitches, including pitch 19, the roof, and the headwall, and try to parse out some of the confusing history. We also discuss Jordan's ascent, the style that he aimed for, and the compromises he had to make. And finally, we talk about why Jordan isn't yet finished with the free Salathé. And honestly, it's just a joy to get to talk to him. Let's get into it. You are the final episode of the season.
Yeah, I'm honestly very happy to talk about the Salathé anytime.
I am happy you did the thing because like ending these seasons always feels a little strange. Like I'm just going to stop talking about climbing history as if it stopped, you know?
Yeah.
So having this like capstone on it is really cool.
Who were the two others? I know you chatted with Mark, right?
And Mark and Steve Bechtel will come right
Nice.
before your episode. Yeah.
Nice. I'm not very prepared for this conversation.
To be totally honest, you're more prepared than I am because you've climbed the Salathé. And
okay, I know.
And I'm like, my mind is still like spinning with all the information I ingested this season. So I'm sure I'm going to forget to ask you things.
It's kind of a lot, right? I've been trying to wrap my head around Salathé history for like 10 years, and it's only just now started to make sense to me.
Yeah, well, that's why I'm so excited to talk to you. But first off, you had a mega season.
Mm-hmm.
So congrats. Like not
Thanks.
only the free Salathé, but also the LCAP triple, right?
Yeah.
Just and then a bunch of stuff in the High Sierra.
Slightly less known because, everybody thinks of the Triple Crown, but Triple LCAP, pretty cool too. It's just fun climbing the Salathé as any part of an LCAP link up always feels badass because it's already badass enough by itself. So when you get to do that and then a few other routes, it's pretty fun.
Well, you know what I was thinking when I was writing this most recent story episode, the final episode of the Salathé? I was like, I wonder how much it would cost to hire Jordan to just take me up the Salathé and let me top rope as much as I could.
Dude, honestly, I think we could do that pretty easily because I do think it did occur to me, like I was like, hang on, has Chris actually ever climbed up there? And it's amazing how well you're able to.
I've climbed the Free Blast. That's it.
Okay. Man, yeah, you really got to climb the whole route. It would blow your mind. It's insane up there.
I know. I've spent so much time now thinking about it, reading about it, researching it, writing it, that I'm like, it just feels wrong if I don't go up there now.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And especially I think I sent you that video of Steve Roper and crew doing the second ascent, right? In like
Yeah, so
67, I
good.
think, or something like
So
that.
good.
Oh man, it just blows my mind. And if you think about if you climb up there, just aid climbing, not even you don't even have to free climb, and just think of it through their perspective, it's like so hard to wrap your head around. And it gives
Yeah,
you so much
totally.
like reverence and respect for those guys. So it's
When it's
cool.
it's
It's a cool
cool
experience to
watching
have.
it's cool watching their film too because they like there are so many shots that look like they're having the time of their life up there, you know? Like they look like they're having
Hmm.
so much fun. They're in the middle of the hardest work you can imagine, but they're having so much fun.
Totally. Because they're the only ones up there at the time. Must have felt so
Yeah.
groundbreaking, you know? Way more adventurous than it is now.
Still pretty damned adventurous though.
It is,
I'd
yeah.
I'd say you're sort of like a modern day Indiana Jones. I know you wanted to hear that, so that's why I'm telling you
Yeah,
that,
I'll take
but
it.
it's
I'll
also
take it.
true.
I'll take it.
Well, man, first off, would you call this whole thing with you and El Cap a love affair? Because that's how I'm thinking of it in my head.
I would, particularly with this route. Like, yeah, I had a challenging year of climbing last year and just a challenging year of life, and it really made me like kind of reflect on, okay, how do I get my life back on course? How do I get my climbing back on
Mm,
course? And what it came back down to, honestly, for me is like really finding like returning to my true inspiration, which has always stemmed from Yosemite, and in particular on El Cap, it's always stemmed from the Salathé. And it's kind of interesting. I've been climbing for almost 12 years now, and it's taken me this long to get to this route, but that's just because I've held it in such reverence. But it came at a time when I really like needed to follow that like pure inspiration, and it delivered for me big time. So I'm super thankful for it. And
you said that like you should have done it sooner, but you're in pretty rare company by doing it. Like it's just you, the Hersons, and Todd and Paul who've done it the way you did it.
it's true, but I have had a lot of people tell me over the years, like, why haven't you done the Salathé yet? Yeah, almost as if I should have done it sooner. But that's largely because of their misunderstanding of the route itself and the way in which I want to do it. And because even if you
Right.
don't do it with pitch 19, like the headwall is still really hard, and it's
Totally.
only rated
Totally.
13B, you know, the modern way that people pitch it out nowadays. Um, and I don't know, I can, when I'm on form, I can typically climb 13B second try, and I can't think of many people who are climbing the headwall second try.
Yeah.
So
That's a good
it's
point.
very, it's understanding why people say that, because they're like, oh, it's only a few more hard pitches than the free rider. And if you've done the free rider, if you've done the free rider in a day, surely the Salathé isn't
Right.
that much harder. But that's where that's where the misunderstanding begins. It really is a lot harder. And then especially if you want to do it the original way.
Yeah. Why do it the original way? Why is that so enticing to you?
I mean, I like originals. I like I like classics. I don't know, I like that's the cool thing about climbing is you get to follow in the same footsteps as the people
Mm,
that came before you. And so that's just me. That's just what I like to do. That's just my style. But then it's also the people that I've surrounded myself with and been influenced by, particularly Mark. You know, I've written
sure.
about it on Instagram how Mark being, you know, him and Max being the first to really try and free climb the Salathé and put in a good effort. And of course, they went pitch 19 because that was the route. That was how Royal climbed it. That's how Todd and Paul did it. He was like, yeah, when you got to do it with pitch 19. So I just always kind of had that in my mind, and
Yeah.
yeah, it felt true to like what I value in climbing and in life.
Cool. I'm gonna total sidebar tell you this funny coincidence that just happened with Mark this week.
Yeah. Okay.
Um, I just the other week I had looked on our Written in Stone YouTube channel, and a guy by the name of Eric Zishi had subscribed. And Eric Zishi's like bouldering legend, did all this early hard bouldering in North Carolina, still out there crushing boulders. I think he's in his 60s or close to it at this point. Legend. And he had subscribed. So I sent him a message and was like, hey, thanks for the support. And also, we're going to be talking about bouldering at some point, and I'm definitely going to want to talk to you about it. And he was like, yeah,
Cool.
reach out anytime. Well, then literally the next day, I'm looking at Mountain Magazine with Long, Hard, and Free in it, Mark's article.
Yeah.
And there's a photo of Max climbing the roof or climbing the pitch up to the roof. And sitting in the corner of the roof is a guy who's aiding the route.
Yeah.
His face is covered with like a ski mask,
And he's like looking down at the belay on them, right?
Yeah. And I messaged Mark and I was like, do you know who this dude is? Like, I'd never really noticed him in the photo. And I just looked at him and he's wearing a ski mask. What a strange thing. And he's like, it's so weird. This guy came up to me a couple years ago and was like, hi, my name's Eric Zishi. I was the one right above you on the Salathé.
No way.
I was like, wow, the universe is tiny, man. I just talked to that guy on the internet 2 days ago.
Wow, that's crazy. Yeah, Mark's always told me about that guy. And yeah, you can see him in the photo so easily. Because he has the famous line of like, I don't think you're going to be able to free climb this part. And then him and Max just laughed or something.
Yeah,
it must have been wild for him to witness.
Totally.
That's cool.
Such an interesting thing. I love it. Anywho, let's get back to the free Salathé here. Before we like jump into details about the route, because I want to get kind of nerdy about it. What did I get wrong in the episode? You've listened to it. What did I get wrong? Geez. What did I miss? Anything egregious stand out?
No. I think the only thing that stood out to me a little bit was about Todd and Paul adding the anchor at the base of the head wall. And there's 2 bolts there now. And I always thought that Todd and Paul added those bolts, but I know you've chatted a lot with Jim Herson this year, and I've chatted a lot with Jim too. But you didn't describe it as that. You said that they belayed off of pins, which is actually true. They did do that, which is so hard to believe. Because if you've been at the base of the head wall, one, it's not much of a stance at all. It's like it's not a ledge really. And then yeah. Although there's 2 bolts there now, when Todd and Paul were doing that bit, there was just a sketchy pin belay, and yeah, you talk about the the Vita Vu groove and everything, and the first 513 pitch of the head wall. There also didn't used to be a bolt there, which there is now. So I think that that lead that Todd did is very underappreciated at the time, because there wasn't a bolt there and there wasn't a bolted belay there. And God, that gear is so bad, and that climbing is so insecure. That must have been like really scary. So actually, that's not saying you got anything wrong at all. That was just I liked that you had that in there. It made me think.
Well, that part of that came from texts with you.
Yeah, okay.
I was trying to piece it together in my mind, because either in Paul's book or in another article of his, he says something about belay bolts and a protection bolt above them appeared after we did it. And I wasn't sure where on the head wall that was until you mentioned it must have been sketchy the way they did it way back then, that first head wall pitch. And then I thought, oh, there's a bolt there now where it used to be hard to protect. That makes total sense. So I'm glad I didn't totally get that wrong.
Gosh, it's still super scary even with where the bolt is now, to be honest. You end up doing the crux with the bolt like well below your feet. And if you fall like below the head wall, like below the roof, and you're hanging in space.
Oh, you still do?
Like, yeah, it's terrifying. It's so terrifying. So I don't know what it would have been like. I don't know what it would have been like for them. But yeah, Jim and I had a conversation about it. I know I like how you didn't bring Alex Huber into the mix in your episode, but I'm sure we'll talk about him here now. But
yeah, we almost can't avoid it.
No, Jim told me, because Alex was very critical of them for, quote, like adding a hanging belay on the head wall, which they really, I guess they did at the bottom where we're talking about. But Alex was the one who added that bolt and the one who added that bolted belay when he freed it. And I just think that's a little hypocritical to not
Yeah.
match the same level of boldness that Todd did, like 5 years earlier or whatever. Because that's pretty proud lead, but even still, yeah. I think they were fully legit for placing that belay at the base of the head wall too, because it would be insane to, like, how people aid climb it, like, and how they did on the first ascent is they aid through the roof, and then they aid like the initial butt crack of the head wall to like a hanging belay, a third way up the head wall. And that would be terrifying to free climb, because you'd climb through this roof that's like 12A jugs, and then be at this stance, and then looking at this like super sketchy 513 groove, and your belayer can't see you. You can't see them.
Down under the
roof.
Would
be like, it would be outrageous. Like, you certainly could do it that way, and say they did that on the first ascent. I imagine anybody who did the second ascent would be like, this is fucked up. We should put a belay right here. Like, it would have happened eventually anyways. So I don't fault them for that whatsoever.
Yeah. What's funny is I was, at the same time as I was writing this episode, I was bolting this big roof at a crag that Paul did a lot of the development at.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where it occurred to me that, like, I don't want to like continue this pitch above the roof very far, because the rope drag is horrendous when I turn this lip. I could go up the slab another 20 feet, but is it worth it? And then when I was writing that piece, I was like, oh God, of course they put a belay there. You turn the lip of that roof and then try to climb one of the cruxes of the route.
Totally.
No way.
It would be outrageous.
The hanging belay you're talking about, I want to understand the head wall a little better while we're there.
Sure.
You turn the roof, which looks incredible. And then you're at the base of the head wall where they put this belay in at a stance. It's not a ledge, but it's a stance.
Totally.
And then they climbed that first bit to the aid belay, which is a hanging belay. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah, it is.
Okay. That's where the hanging belay is. And then the next belay is on a ledge.
No, because there's 2 belays on the head wall. 2
hanging belays.
Yeah. Well, the second one, Alex, he claims is like a no hands stance. But it's not. You have to. It's kind of hard to call it a no hands stance. I mean, it is. You stand on this edge. You're on this jug. You shove your foot into this hole, and you like
shove your foot in. There's a photo of him doing that, right?
Yeah, and you can go no hands, but then what do you do immediately after that? You clip the anchor and you like hang on it. And so I don't know. It seems kind of silly to call that like a no hands rest, like a no hands stance. Although you can take your hands off, but it's just a little weird. So yeah, at the hanging belay that Alex, eliminated was that one, like a third of the way up the head wall. Like,
got it.
At the end of the butt crack, basically. That's where Royal and team belayed on the first ascent, and then at this quote no hands stance, and then to long ledge.
Got it. While we're talking belays, though, because I want to get to what you did on the head wall, but I sort of want to go through your entire ascent just in terms of style a little bit later. While we're talking added belays, let's go back down to the much discussed pitch 19.
Sure.
Because there is a midway belay on that pitch.
There is,
and I had heard a number of times that Todd had done it from a no hand stance midway through the pitch. And what I had understood was that he would fall lower to that spot and then climb again, because there used to be that ethic. But now what I understand is that they belayed there.
Yes. I was confused by this too, because I also always heard of like there being a no hands rest right before the crux. And like when Thomas Huber tried to free the Salathé and he fell at the very end of the pitch, he like went back down to this stance and then, supposedly free climbed it from there. And so I was always like, okay, is that the stance? Is that the belay, or are they two different things? And yeah, going up there myself, I realized, and then also watching that like 1967, whatever,
Yeah,
Steve
that's
Roper
the key for
Salathe
me.
video. That's the key, totally. Because when you climb the pitch, yeah, it's a 40-meter pitch. Quote, ledge to ledge, same length. It starts and ends the exact same place as the monster. But yeah, the first half of the pitch is like 10 plus fist crack, and you get to a no hands rest, and so that's where they belayed on the first ascent, and then that's where Todd and Paul belayed, and it makes a lot of sense. It was thankfully it
It
never
makes
happened to me,
total
but it would
sense.
be a big bummer to like fall at the very end of the pitch, and then
Yeah.
yeah, have to lower all the way down. Their ropes wouldn't have been long enough at the time, but then to do the initial 10 plus section.
Not only that, but I read in the comments in your Instagram post that it's really easy
Hmm.
to get your rope stuck in
It
that
is.
initial wider fist section. And
Yeah.
Jim Herson gave you big bro beta. So it's
Yeah.
entirely possible that on the first ascent, they recognized, oh, our rope's going to get stuck there. Let's belay right here at this stance,
Yeah.
and then we'll keep going.
It's quite interesting. I think a lot of people surprise themselves, like even aid climbing that pitch today. It's the geometry of it changes at like a few points throughout, and it's not like a straight up clean corner the whole way. It undulates in and out, and you do have to be really careful with how you protect it. Because there's a bunch of stuck cams back in the crack that you can see that look like they're from the 80s, and I've even had it a
Mm,
few times where because the crack is wide and you climb up and over, your rope like pushes your cams in the crack, and it's either going to push your cam all the
yep,
way back that it umbrellas and then gets left back there, or I've
yep,
had my rope like get stuck in the cam lobes, and then I'm trying to lead and I can't pull
totally.
out rope, and yeah, it is heinous. So that's also a very valid reason for them to have belayed there as well.
Yeah, when I read that in your comments, that made even more sense for me why there would be a belay there because you circled in a photo of yourself where the belay
Yep.
is, and I'm like, what on earth? Like, why would anybody stop there?
Right.
But that makes sense.
Right. And that the Big Bro story with Jim was pretty funny because it was actually, I think, Jesse Huey, a good friend of mine. When
Hmm.
I told him I was going to try the Salathe, he was like, "Oh, dude, like don't forget about the Big Bro beta on pitch 19 or whatever." And he kind of told me a rough idea. He's like, "Yeah, I'm pretty sure one of the Huber brothers told me that." And then my first day in Yosemite for the season, I like went straight to the free blast, and I ran into like Jim Herson. I was like, "Jim, this is great. I've been like wanting to talk to you. I'm like here to finally try the Salathe." And the first thing I asked him about was pitch 19. I was like, "So what is it I hear about this like Huber Big Bro beta?" And he just like scoffed and was like, "What? Who'd you hear that from?" Like, "That's my beta. I came up with that." Which, when Jim's history with the Hoobers, it
Yeah.
made it really funny. And I was like, "Oh, sorry, I'm sorry."
Like, oh yeah, the Hubers themselves told me that they made this beta up themselves.
Oh, but I had to source a
uh,
Big Bro. I didn't even know where to get one. I had to source one on Instagram. Somebody let me borrow one for the season. But then, like, about the stance, like the famous stance at the end of pitch 19, before the hardest 5-meter section. Um,
yeah.
I had always heard was a no hand stance, and I've talked to Jim, and he claims that it is. And if it is a no hand stance, you have to literally like put your nose in the crack and have perfect balance and like not breathe because you'll blow yourself off. I mean, it's a triangle. It's like a tiny little triangle pedestal. You can see it below the photo. I think you asked me about it, if that was the belay.
Hmm.
And it's a great stance. Your feet are on it, but like your hands are in the crack, and it's not no hands. So, um, I don't think it'd be legit to fall and lower back to there and like call that a stance, because it's not a no hand stance. But it is a good rest, and it definitely gives you time to contemplate like the immediate insecurity you're about to launch into. And it's hard to psych up leaving that stance because there's a good chance you're going to fall and have to do it again.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about the climbing of that last little bit. I was reading in your Instagram comments, and Hazel Finley said that she
Yeah,
had tried that section as well on her ascent, which I didn't know, and I thought was really cool that she had gone up there. And she said
totally.
it
I
basically
agree.
degloved her finger out in one of the pin scars.
Well, before I address the specifics of that, I wanna talk about like conditions on the Salathe, which
Yeah.
as an El Cap climber, you're always trying to avoid the sun, particularly in the spring, and so you're always trying to climb in the morning shade. But just because it's in the shade, or just because it's at night, doesn't mean the conditions are good. And I've learned on the head wall and on pitch 19, there's really only like a 1 hour window where the conditions are actually
Mm,
like dry and the wind is picking up and it's like good sending conditions. But if you go, to the base of pitch 19 at 8 a.m. or the base of the head wall, it's so insanely muggy. It feels like
mm,
the pitch is wet. And I did actually like give myself some horrible gobies on the head wall and on pitch 19 this year, top roping on it, like in those suboptimal conditions. And so I imagine Hazel probably met it at a similar time. And if you
yeah.
climb on it in those conditions, it feels absolutely, absolutely heinous. Um, and it is still heinous even when the conditions are good. But yeah, setting yourself up for like that perfect 45-minute window, basically right before the sun hits, when sun is hitting at the base of El Cap, it's picking up wind and blowing up the rest. And so that's like a good moment to seize for your red point attempts.
Mm,
But anyways, I have a whole Instagram post written up that I'm gonna post after I get off the phone with you, um, kind of breaking down pitch 19. But I think the last 5 meters is really interesting because when you look at it for the first time, or when you try to climb on it for the first time, I think the initial reaction is like, "Whoa, this is like some changing corners, like Lynn Hill Houdini shit." That you just don't
mm,
encounter all that often, and it's super particular. And so when I went up there for the first time, I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to like try some like back scissoring and like weird arm barring and like tiny little, because there's just no, although it might look like it in the photo, there's just not much of a crack there.
yeah.
And there's really like these two finger pin scars that are like 5 feet apart that you somehow have to like body English your way to be able to reach them. Um, but the corner trickery doesn't really work. And so then I sat at the bottom and I looked at it again and I'm like, well, it is just like a tips layback in a corner. So like I'm just gonna climb it like a tips layback in a corner, and found a sequence that worked. So yeah, it took me through this whole like psychological journey thinking I was going to have to do this crazy technical thing, and then it ended up kind of just being like really basic climbing, You just have
Yeah,
to
yeah.
you just have to find the right body positions and foot jams and like positioning to be able to reach these two pin scars, and then yeah, you just crank on them like finger pockets basically and muscle your way through. But yeah, it is still pretty savage.
It's funny now to think of Todd's specific skill set starting in, and I talk about this a little in the episode, but then it continues as well, like starting in Vitavu with the flares, and then the pin scars of City Park and the Renegade. Um, but then he went on to this like really brutal pocket climbing area of Wild Iris where it's all about one and two fingers at a time. So it seems like he was very particularly suited for this 5 meters of climbing.
Absolutely. And that's the immediate thing I bring up when people cast any doubt on, like, oh, I don't think Todd could have done that pitch. And I'm like, do you know what his track record was before he went to this? Like, he and Alan Watts were like the two best climbers at this style. And it's really just,
Right.
yeah, it's just like a crux of City Park or crux of the Renegade or something, just at the end of this pitch on OCAP. So, no, he was perfectly suited to it. And yeah, I have no doubt that he smashed it as soon as he found a sequence. And that was what I asked Connor and what I asked Jim. The last two people who had done that pitch. I was like, "Hey, I've been up there. I've tried it before. I don't believe it's possible. Obviously it is. You guys did it. Like, what's your advice for me? And they were basically just like, try everything that you can think of. Like, you're bound to find a way. And when you find a way, you'll be able to repeat it. And they were exactly right. Once I found a sequence, I was able to kind of just do it, not on command, but like repeatable enough to feel confident about it, you know?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean that's another piece of this puzzle that I didn't take into consideration was that the amount of, and I guess I did take it into consideration, but not fully for this pitch, is the amount of hang dogging and working that they were already predisposed to, that they were okay with, that they didn't see anything
Hmm.
wrong with, is part of the reason other people hadn't done it first, is because they weren't comfortable with hanging there. It just wasn't part of the ethic of the time to hang there and work out the moves. And Todd and
Totally.
Paul were on the very first wave of that, and some of the first people to accept it.
Totally. And yeah, I imagine at the time, people who would give free attempts would, climb as much as they could until they fell, and then yeah, pull through and keep going and not really try it again. And I think even to this day, it would be a really hard pitch to onsite. But I do believe
Mm,
that, yeah, with enough kind of modern, like, hang dogging rehearsing tactics, if people put as much time into pitch 19 as they do the head wall, it would see a lot more
mm.
sense.
Do you think people don't put the kind of time in because the head wall is easier to access from the top?
I
Is pitch 19 easy to access also?
No. It's smack dab in the middle of El Cap. You have
Right.
two options. You either have to jug up, 500 feet to the base of the heart lines, and then climb, you know, a bunch of pitches of 510 to get to it. And you don't have that much time because, like I said, it goes into it goes
Sure.
into the sun at like 10:45. And the alternative is to wrap in. But even if you're hiking up super early and wrapping in to get to it at that same time, that's a big day. So what I worked out for myself is I stashed a camp on the summit of El Cap. Um, and then I stashed a second camp in the alcove, which is just above pitch 19.
Similar to what they did.
Yeah, totally. I had a little routine where I would hike up to the top of El Cap in the afternoon. I'd spend the night. The next morning, I would climb on the head wall all morning, and then I would wrap to the alcove, and I'd spend the night. And then the following morning, I'd climb on pitch 19, and I'd wrap to the ground. I'd rest, and I'd do that again. So it was like a 3-day routine. Um, and well, I think ultimately ended up spending like 6 days on the head wall and 4 days on pitch 19. So it does come together quicker. It's much less hard climbing than the head wall. But yeah, it is a pain
Yeah,
in the ass
totally.
to work. So I think that is part of it. And then just most people's first experience on it, I think, is just really, really unpleasant and discouraging. That it that on top of considering how much work you have to put in to do it again is yeah, is hard for a lot of people.
Yeah, and it's like the difference between like a really hard boulder problem that has moves you can't do versus a long endurance pitch. You at least feel like you're getting geographically closer to an endurance pitch, Like you
Hmm.
can do all of the moves at least. So it feels more motivating. And not to mention, the head wall is one of the most beautiful cracks on the planet. So people are going to be drawn to that.
It is, yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, that is largely what makes the Salathé the Salathé. I love all the stuff and the details and you know, the pitches with a lot of character below, but yeah, the head wall is what you're up there for.
Can we talk grade of pitch 19? Because
Yeah.
one of the things thrown out there as to why Todd couldn't have done it is because they graded it 13A or 13B according to
Yeah.
some of the early
I've seen
topos.
both.
So it was somewhere in there. But
Yep.
then when Jim finally does the whole pitch, he calls it C. So what are your thoughts
Yeah.
there?
Which I always assumed that he gave it a harder grade because he did it in one pitch without the hanging belay. But then I talked to him about it, and he basically said that he gave it a harder grade because he wanted that hard grade to like entice people to want to try it more. Because
Mm.
like if it is 13C, it's soft 13C. I'd more likely say it's
Mm.
like hard. I'd say it's hard 13B. So I kind of understand. He's like, oh, who doesn't? His idea was like, who doesn't love a soft grade on El Cap? But sadly, I don't think that pitch is a good candidate. So I think, like I said, people already think it's hard. I don't know. So maybe the grade might have scared people away from it more than encouraged
Mm.
them. But who knows? I mean, people could feel similarly if it was still graded 13B, being like, man, I have to work really hard for this thing. But you could say the same
Yeah.
thing about the head wall because that's true there too. So, um, yeah, I'm fine with it being the grade. I mean, if it is 13C, that's my hardest trad pitch on El Cap, and I'm proud of that. But if not, yeah, stout 13B.
So, but still in the realm.
Yeah, in the realm for sure. Definitely not to say that like Todd and Paul were off. Because I mean, a perfect comparison is like, didn't Lynn Hill grade the changing corners like
Changing
13B at the
corners.
time? Which is that's
Yes.
absurd. That's so absurd. They just didn't have the
Yeah.
context
Yeah.
for that kind of thing at the time, I don't think.
Yeah, totally. And, grades are such a strange thing anyway. I'm finishing up the book for season 1. And I made a grading chart, like a grading comparison chart to go in the back so that when I'm talking French grades,
Yeah.
the Americans who don't know French grades can go in and compare and see what I'm talking about. And I wrote a little blurb on the comparison chart saying, in my opinion, 13A extends all the way from hard 12C to easy 13C.
Mhm.
So, and all the grades do that. So
That's so funny.
So I can't possibly show you my opinion of what that chart is. I have to draw lines somewhere. These are rough estimates,
Yeah, that's interesting. I think the last point I'd like to make about pitch 19 is that I assumed, like, when you look at the list of heavy hitters who have freed the Salathé, after say Todd and Paul, after Alex and Tomas, Jim, it's like the Alex Honolds, it's the Tommy Caldwells, it's the Brad Gobrights.
Yeah.
I assumed Yuji Hirayama, I missed him. I assumed that
Yeah. Steph
okay,
Davis, Hazel
yeah,
Finley.
Steph Davis, totally. I assumed that all of those people had tried pitch 19 and just deemed it too hard or too whatever, and that's why they settled for the monster and climbed, quote, like the Salathé light, as some people refer it to. And that always confused me, because it didn't really confuse me, it just made me assume, like, wow, that pitch must be really hard if like all of these heavy hitters likely tried it and didn't do it and had to
Right.
do the Salathé, the quote, like, easier way. But then when I talked to all of those people and asked them, like, oh, did you try it? They'd be like, oh no, like, I didn't even know. Like Hazel is an anomaly of the names I mentioned. They're like, oh no, didn't even like
Yeah.
consider it. Nick Barry, same. And Mark would tell you, like, he'll be a little bit more like aggressive and be like, oh, if you didn't do pitch 19, like, you haven't freed the Salathé. And I'm not gonna say anything like that or take away from somebody's ascent, but I do find it more like the reason for not doing pitch 19 more permissible if it wasn't really within their like realm of consciousness. And the best example I have of this
Right.
is Yuji Hirayama. I met Yuji coming down from the triple El Cap, actually, and I was like so psyched. I'd never met him before.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
he invited me up to Hans Florian's place in Yosemite West, and for my last night in Yosemite, and got to have dinner with him and his friends, and I got
Wow,
to
that's
basically
cool.
just like have a podcast episode where I just like grilled him about the Salathé story and like wanted to hear all about his his flash attempt and then his vision to do it ledge to ledge and all this. And I just asked him bluntly, I was like, so tell me, like, when you were going up there, like, did you have it in your mind, like whether you would try pitch 19 or whether you would try the monster? And he was like, honestly, I didn't even know pitch 19 existed. He was like, I just
Mm,
saw, because he was influenced from Alex Huber and Heinz Zach's
of
photos
course.
that were blasted all over. Alex had great PR.
Absolutely.
And
Incredible photos.
no, of course, I mean, I would have been just as influenced as well if I had seen them at the time. But when he told me that, I was like, oh, that's so interesting. Like, that just shows the amount of influence Alex had at the time to even like remove
Yeah.
pitch 19 from people's minds, even though it's still on the topo. So when I learned that, I was like, oh, I don't really fault you for not trying because it wasn't even in your mind. Um, which is why I want to like put it back in people's minds so that more people think about it and make that decision consciously.
Totally. I like what you're doing.
The fact that it's only seen 4 ascents makes it seem like it's really hard, which it's hard, but it's not so hard that it shouldn't be climbed. You know what I mean? And
Right.
I'm
Right.
also not saying that I did it this way because I'm better than Yuji Hirayama or Tommy Caldwell, because obviously that is not true. If I can do this pitch, surely everybody else who has done the Salathé could have also. I believe that.
Yeah, I think that's a really important part of this, Jordan. Like, there have definitely been moments where I'm making this podcast that I'm like, my sole purpose is to go after Alex Huber and the things that he said. Um, and for reasons other than just Todd and Paul. Like, his name has come up discrediting lots of people, and it's
Right.
really frustrating to see that. Um, but I think ultimately reading about, like, reading Paul's writing where he's talking about, other people have found other variations, and how like mind-blowing that is for him to realize that there are other routes that go up this wall. Like, it's sort of a choose your own adventure at
Yeah,
this point.
totally.
You can cross over into this other route in several different places, and that's such a cool part of climbing on El Cap
Hmm.
that I can't fault anybody for taking the monster path and
No,
not
of
going pitch
course.
19, especially if they didn't know about it.
For
They're still
sure.
having this incredible adventure and incredible experience going up there and climbing the thing. I also just think it's very cool when people say, I want to take the harder variation instead of just the way everyone else is going.
Right. I mean, because at the end of the day, we're not just trying to find the line of least resistance, right?
Right. That's not the game anymore.
No, we're trying to do the hard thing, I think. And the attitude I took towards this route this season is like, I want to strive for the best possible style that I can, because I know from experience, big wall climbing, you almost always end up having to make compromises because of weather, because of other parties, because of
Yeah.
conditions, because of whatever ends up happening. That's why people take stances. That's why people pinpoint pitches. That's why people top rope, like, because you're just up there fighting for your life. And, these unexpected circumstances play out and you just have to make a decision. So I believe that if you go into it striving for like the best possible extent you can think of, like, even if you don't hit it, you're probably gonna end up with like a better ascent than if you had gone in just like already willing to make those compromises. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I've got a note here that says, strive for the best style you can do. That should be the goal.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Totally. Cause I mean, I think that's more admirable. Like, if you go up, like, I'm gonna try pitch 19, and if I can't do it, I'll do the monster, but at least I tried, versus just like, I'm
Yeah.
not even gonna bother. I'm just gonna go do the monster. Like, yeah, I think you learn more about yourself, and I think end up being more proud with your effort if you strive for the best you can.
I agree. Can we talk a little more about the style and some of the particulars of, like, what are some of the stylistic concerns? What were the stylistic concerns for you going up on the Salathe? How did you hope to do it style wise?
Um, well, the first considerations that were out the gate was, ground up. That wasn't an option because I had already spent time on, the Free Rider, Golden Gate, other sections. I'd top roped on the South before. Wasn't worried about going ground up. That ship had sailed, and wasn't worried about wrapping in. either. That was actually a big thing I had to wrap my head around when I like faced myself with, okay, I really want to do this Salathé. What is it going to take? And I looked at all the people that have done it, and they've all spent like at least a week working the head wall. And I just hadn't been willing to
Right.
do that in the past. So that was the first thing I had to commit to. But I committed to I didn't leave fixed ropes. I never like wrapped in to climb on the head wall if somebody else was already there. So yeah, trying to respect people's
Mm,
experience while they're on the route. But then like I did, I pre-hauled to and stashed some gear in the alcove since, like I said, I already had a camp on the summit, camp in there. So those are definitely stylistic like detractions, but at the end of the day, what I was going for is I wanted to do a push. Like I didn't want to go to the summit. I didn't want to return to the ground. And I wanted to lead every pitch. And then ideally, I wanted to try and do the whole route with this quote like ledge to ledge style, which is ultimately, I think, building on like what Alex was trying to do. Like, oh, I only accept free
right.
climbing if it's between no hand stances. Um, but he didn't he didn't even do that on his ascent fully because there's a hanging belay at the top of the enduro corner that's unavoidable unless
Right.
you link that. And then same on the free blast, like there's hanging belays at the top of pitch 3 and on the free blast and various parts of the wall. So to do it ledge to ledge, yeah, you got to think of how you can link these pitches to avoid them. And I think that's it. Yeah. I wanted to lead every pitch, wanted to do it from bottom to top, and I wanted to try and do it ledge to ledge and then have Mark as my belayer. That was like the style bonus, I
Wow,
would say.
what a cool piece of it. Mark sent me a voice or a video, selfie video he made while he was up there with you.
Hmm.
Um, that was like 51 years to the day that he was up there. And
Yeah, isn't that
that's so
crazy?
wild. I was just like, wow, what a career you've had. Like, that's incredible.
Oh man, I know. I can't believe it from his perspective. It's so funny.
That's
But
amazing. I'm over here 50 years old, like, man, I don't know if I want to go up El Cap now,
oh,
And
I
then I
know,
look at
right?
him and I'm like, yeah, I have to. I can't make that excuse.
I can't promise that I'm going to be doing that when I'm his age, but yeah, it was like a cool full circle moment for us, people that have seen
Yeah,
free our film Free as Can Be will perhaps understand that. But yeah, for me to finish kind of what he started.
totally. Such an important thing. I think that's a really cool part of the story of the two of you. Um,
Hmm.
just and woven into your own individual stories as well. That's such a cool
Yeah,
piece of it. You said earlier that you have to make compromises, like when you're up there.
yeah,
So, what compromises did you end up making that you had hoped not to make?
yeah. Um, well, the first day was perhaps the best day of climbing I've had on El Cap, at least from a free climbing standpoint. Yeah, man, it's up there. But I was going into pitch 19 kind of expecting. I was like, man, I might have to do it in 2 pitches. I might have to like lower and do it from a stance. I might have to ping point, like all of those things.
Mm-hmm.
And I climbed from the ground to the alcove on day 1, which means pitch 19 is like the last pitch of the day. And that's a pretty big day to try and, red point one of your hardest trad
Yeah.
pitches. Um, and so I was kind of expecting to not do it that day and to then have to do it like the following morning or yeah, make one of these compromises that I'm talking about. And I was just so psyched because I decided I was like, well, I'm here. I'm just going to bet on myself and I'm just going to try. Like it doesn't hurt to try. And then I found myself at the end and I was like sick, like no asterisks on pitch 19,
Wow.
1 pitch, first try of the day, like placing all the gear. Um, so that already was like the start of a great ascent, no matter what happened next. And then um, I didn't have to make a compromise until the head wall. Actually, everything went great all the way through there. But then I would have loved to do the head wall in 1 pitch, but I really wasn't prepared to do that and knew that that was very unlikely. the people that I know who have done it ledge to ledge have put like a lot of time into it. And
Yeah.
I had never led on the head wall until like coming from the ground, basically. So
Oh, wow.
I had only top roped, and it's a big adjustment to go from leading or top roping to leading up there. And so my real goal was to just do the head wall in 2 pitches, which is standard to link 1 and 2, and then to do the final third by itself.
That's the way that Huber did it, right? The 2
That's
pitch.
the way that Huber did it, yeah. And I'd say
Right.
that's like relatively, that's the standard way that people do it now. Which, yeah, the breakdown of if you do it in 3 pitches, it's 13A, 13A, 13B. They're all about similar length. Or if you do it in 2, it's like 1 mega 13B endurance pitch, and then 13B boulder pitch at the end. But the way it ended up playing out for me is I kind of unintentionally did the head wall in 3 pitches, and I can explain how that ended up happening. My first time trying to lead it, I like did the first 13A, the butt, like the Vitavu butt crack pitch, and then I fell like at the anchors, linking it with the second one, and then the sun came out and it was too hot, and just went back to long ledge and rested for the rest of the day, and then the following morning, there was this crazy storm that came in and was like cloud and like moisture and crazy winds and whatnot, and I was like going down the head wall trying to warm up, and like the butt crack pitch was just like numbing me out. There's like these tiny pin scars and really sharp footholds and whatever, and crimps, and I was just like, I can't climb like the beginning again without numbing out.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, how about instead of doing, one long pitch and then a short pitch, I'll like have done a short pitch and then I'll like link the last 2 together. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I counted like the first 13. I was like, well, I've freed that. I'm just going to start from that anchor, and I'm going to try and go to long ledge and link the next 2 together. And then I fell at the end of like the endurance bit again, and I was like, whoa, what the fuck? Like maybe I don't have this all of a sudden. Like I shouldn't be falling here. And so that was kind of my mental low point, and I lowered back to the belay, where Mark was, and was just kind of like trying to wrap my head around like, I might not actually be able to do this for whatever reason. Like I didn't think I was going to be falling in this place as many times as I have. And so I like just like instinctively ditched the extra gear on my harness, not sure even what I was going to do next. And he was just like, oh, there's nothing left to do but try again. This is the only pitch in front of you. Don't think about like topping out or what it all means. Just like focus on the next pitch in front of you. And then I was like, man, how am I going to be less pumped the next time I try this? I was like so pumped this last time, and I had a good warm up. So like I should be firing. And then I just followed his advice. I kind of like calmed myself down, and I tried again, and I made it to the like anchor and the no hands rest like pretty casually. And then I clipped like a quick draw to the anchor and stayed in the no hands belay. And I was like, fuck yeah, I'm going to like keep going. And then I looked down, and I didn't have like I didn't have the extra cams on my harness. And who knows, I might have fallen anyways, but I was like, ah, shit. That's why I say like kind of unintentionally ended up doing it in 3. But when we talk of Todd and Paul and originals, I'm kind of like, you know what? That's how they did it. That's how Jim Herson did it. I'm happy with it. I think it's valid if anybody does that to this day. But I also was okay kind of making the compromise, because I have higher goals on the Salathé. I'd like to free the Salathé in a day. And I just felt like my time on the head wall was almost like only just beginning in a weird way. Even though I'd spent all this time up there, I was like, man, I'm like just starting to have fun and find my flow and lead these pitches, and I'm definitely going to come back. So I was happy to compromise, because the alternative would have been we were running out of time. Mark had to like get to Reno for a doctor's appointment. I could have like gotten him to the top, called in other supplies and gotten a belay and done the head wall in 2 or 1, whatever, but that would have highly like detracted from the experience. I wanted it to be fully with Mark and not have any of those shenanigans. So
I love it, and I love that it's still in your mind. Like you still want to go up there, you still want to do more things. You feel like your time isn't done there. I love that dance continues.
yeah, that's the magic of I think that's the magic of that route. It just keeps pulling you back. And I don't know if you've I don't know if you've read any of Jim Herson's trip reports, but
Oh, I have. I
he
have.
oh my
Yes.
gosh, I love how he's like, "Oh yeah, any like climbing like idea is valid as long as it's the Salathé." Basically, he just always finds
Yeah.
himself coming to back to that, and I feel like I'm in my Salathé era right now, and I'm here for it.
I love it. Question for you that I hadn't really thought of until right now. Has anyone explored after Todd and Paul the original aid pitch where the Teflon corner and the boulder problem are?
Yeah, yes, and I'm glad you asked. I wanted to bring that up actually because for people who aren't familiar, like the only 2 sections of the route that don't go free, like from the original aid ascent, is yeah, between the Teflon corner and the boulder problem, and the 510 pitch off of Long Ledge that you described
Right.
in the
Right.
episode where Todd and Paul bolted like the 511 knobs pitch. And I have thought about it because I do think it would be cool to like
Yeah.
free those like last question marks. I did top rope a little bit on like the crack in between the boulder problem and the Teflon, and I think some of the pins would need to be taken out of it to like maybe reveal some holds.
Mm-hmm.
But it might go. I don't know. And then the pitch off a long ledge, I'm not sure. It's worth checking out. I don't know if it's possible by me, but it might be in the future.
Well, man, thank you for this. I really value being able to just ask you questions while I'm researching this stuff and, bouncing ideas around.
Yeah, we had a fun back and forth.
And I love going and looking at your Instagram. You handle a lot of that stuff so much better than I would ever handle it.
What do you mean, like
Ever.
the comments?
Yeah, yeah. You're so gracious to people and you give them so much room to have their own feelings and opinions. And I would just be like, no, look, you're wrong and you're stupid.
That's just because I'm a people pleaser at the end of the day. I don't want to make anybody upset.
You do an amazing job. And climbing is lucky to have you, Jordan. So, and I'm lucky that you're on here. So thank you.
Well, thank you. Like I said, happy to chat about this anytime and try and set a good example on, the greatest rock climb in the world.
1, 2.
Written in Stone is produced by me, Chris Hampton, with help from Riley Rush for Plugtone Audio, a group of the best, most impactful podcasts in the outdoor industry. Secret Stoners recently got a bonus episode of Paul Piana telling the story of what happened after the accident on the Salathe, and they'll be getting a couple more pertaining to this story soon. You can join for free at the link in your show notes. And remember, this show is 100% rooted in the facts, but like Todd Skinner always said, never let the truth get in the way of a good story. And if you love what you're hearing, give us those 5 stars and a glowing review, join our Patreon, the Secret Stoners Club, and tell everyone you know, at the crag, at the gym, and those climbers staring up at the wall, not sure if they should try that route or not, send them this episode, and together we can tell the stories of climbing's most important ascents, 1 decade at a time. Secret Stoners. I am still tiling. Not right this moment, obviously. I took a break from tiling to come up here and talk to you all. It is 12:18 a.m. on Monday morning as I'm recording this. It's way too late. I'm way too old to be up this late, especially tiling. I should not be up tiling at all. But it will be done soon, and that'll be extra nice. The Secret Stoners Club is popping lately, so thanks to all of you. A bunch of new free members. I appreciate the support. A bunch of orders for the book. Thank you for that. If you haven't, there's another couple of weeks probably to order for the pre-orders at 20% off in the Patreon. So if you haven't done that yet, jump in there and do that before that thing goes to regular price and gets released to the public. Quick shout out, our newest legend. I'm totally going to butcher your name, Tuason. I'm not exactly sure how to say that, but I appreciate you. Also, shout out to our newest rock stars, Jennings and Dimitri. The amount of support lately is wild. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. Particularly as this season is wrapping up and I'm considering how to move forward with the YouTube and how to integrate that with the Secret Stoners Club and continue making bonus content until season 3 comes along, which, like I said, I'll be telling you about in a couple of weeks for our season wrap-up episode. I've got a good idea. I've been mulling it over. Got a good idea. Anyway, as the season is ending and as I'm, moving into first I need a break and then thinking about how to keep doing this thing and what it becomes and what it snowballs into, what it transforms into, this support means a ton. I feel like it's changed already from season 1 to season 2. And it's just picking up momentum. So I'm glad it's reaching people who want this kind of storytelling, this kind of history, this kind of content. I'm not afraid to call it content. It just is what it is. I'm making the best thing that I know how to make and to publish frequently. Could I maybe make it better if I spent 6 weeks on an episode? Sure. That's not what we're here for. We want this stuff in volume to some degree. So I draw my lines, I make the things. Thank you for all of the support that you've been giving. It means the world. When I was editing this episode earlier today, or I guess yesterday at this point, I was thinking more and more about how fun it would be to take Jordan up on his offer. We talked some more after this conversation, after the recording stopped, about going up on the Salathé next year. I think I'm going to take him up on that offer. It's a once-in-a-lifetime thing. I mean, how often do you get to go up any route with someone of that caliber and spend time up there with somebody who understands that world as well as anyone? That might be the most exciting part of it. At first it was about the route, but I also want to see someone in their element up there on that wall. Because that's really impressive to me, to make that your element. And I think, of all the pushback against Alex Huber that I've done, that's something he has to get a lot of credit for, is turning this big wall free climbing game into something that could resemble cragging for a lot of people. And I think that's a really fascinating piece of this game that we play. And obviously, Jordan is one of the best to do it. And I think it would be really fun to go up there and do that. So I need to get my ass in shape over the next 9 months or so. In shape for big days out and crack climbing, not in shape for pulling on little 2-finger pockets and pinky monos. That I can do. Big days out, crack climbing, not so much right now. Gonna have to get to that. If you are in the Patreon when you're listening to this, let me know if it would be interesting to you to make a video of some kind that breaks down all of the nerdiness we were talking about with pitch 19 and with the headwall, where the belays were, where the supposed no-hand stances are, that sort of thing. It's fascinating to me, and I'm curious if it's as fascinating to any of you as it is to both Jordan and I. So let me know if that's something you'd be interested in. I'd be interested in, and I think I probably will for book 2 anyway, draw some diagrams of this stuff and try to get it right. Try to help people understand what it's like up there. Even though I haven't been up there yet. But I will. All right, you guys, I have to go to bed. Time for more tiling comes early tomorrow. I will be taking a break for this upcoming Monday, but then I will be back a Monday or 2 after that, probably just 1, to talk through some of the things that changed for me this season, some of the things I've learned about the 80s, some of the important things that I think we should carry forward, some of the things I think we should leave behind, and of course, what's coming for season 3. So all of you who are still listening, again, thank you so much. I am blown away by the amount of support. And I will see you again in a couple of weeks.